So, the obvious question, what even is the Jedi Survivor 5 Stance Challenge? I got numerous great requests to be Jedi Survivor in different ways, like with only the dual wield stance, with only the crossguard stance, without the force, without healing, and many more creative ways to play. This got me thinking, what if I did a bunch of the requests all in one challenge? That gave birth to the 5 Stance Challenge. I must beat Jedi Survivor 5 times over, and each run, I'm locked to only using one lightsaber stance for the entire playthrough and not allowed to use the other 4 stances. So for the first run, I'll use single blade only. Second will be double-sided only. Third, dual wield only. Fourth, blaster stance only. And can you guess, fifth is crossguard only. I will not be allowed to heal at all, not by meditation points or stims. The only healing that can occur is when I hit an enemy that has killed me, as that's just how the game works, but they have to be prioritized immediately, so I can't save them for when I need them. I'm not allowed to use the majority of force abilities, such as Mind Trick, Force Slow, Force Push, Pull, Lift, Slam, or tapping into the dark side ever while I'm in combat. I am allowed to use the specific force abilities found within the skill tree of the specific stance I'll be using each run in order to get the most out of the stance. I am not allowed to use Bode or Marin's team up abilities, and I'm not allowed to hack droids. Of course, all abilities are allowed for traversal, but never combat. Everything will be on New Game Plus to ensure every playthrough has the exact same health and force stats, plus so I can get access to every stance immediately. All of this on Grandmaster difficulty, and all with the Warrior perk on to increase the difficulty of the enemies I come across. I'm trying something rather different this time, as you'll soon see, so that should sum it all up, and with so much to cover, let's go see what happens when Cal Kestis is forced to become the master of every single lightsaber stance, whether he wants to or not. Facing off against the Senator's bodyguards, I'm quick to be taught that aggression will be punished heavily, especially with no way to heal my mistakes, but I also realize that shield units can be jumped over and slashed from behind for easy kills, something I intend to make the most of going forward. Escaping the Senator's ship crash, this gives me the chance for my brain to double in size, as I learn everything there is to know about single blade stance while improving both my durability and force pool. Speaking of the force, I am forced to use slow when I crash down amongst a group of Imperials, but in order to negate that, I simply don't act until the effect is over, making it as if it never happened at all. I gotta give them a chance after all, which they'll promptly waste with poorly thought out explosives. The dual Viper probe droids alone are quite the issue, as they easily break my block and pelt me with unblockable blasts and rapid blockable ones at the same time. If I can get rid of one though, the second is no trouble. Being so beat up already before the Ninth Sister fight even commences doesn't bode well for me, but Masana Tai doesn't have many new tricks, and I would have easily taken victory if not for an unexpected grab. Now with full health though, she fails to even scratch me, and the only bother I have is being forced into a dual wield stance for the last portion of her health, but the moment she's won with the Force, I'm back in single blade, so I can fight my way through the last of Coruscant's Imperials. Traveling to Kobo, I brace for impact as BD and I crash land, but the raiders and droids that stand between me and reaching Grease don't make me brace for anything. Their threat is minimal, with only the super battle droids giving me a bruise or two. The Biomob Beast, on the other hand, aggravates me, as it refuses to relent in its attacks, but I discover back-to-back power attacks leave it stunned and much easier to overcome. The Imperials and the rest of the Beast, even the mighty Molgu, don't muster much defense against my combo of rapid attacking and careful blocking, with only the unassuming chicken headbutt giving me a pause to worry. It does help that the Imperials seem to be so dedicated to killing each other by accident. Upon reaching Dagan Gera's back-to-tank and freeing the imprisoned fallen Jedi, I may not lose to him, but I do prove to be sloppy, gaining a few new lightsaber scars in my haste as I fail to dodge his counterattacks. Single blade is made for all situations, the jack of all trades stance, so beating Dagan is as simple as beating the foes that blocked my way here, but I must be more careful in the future, or this galaxy will have one less Cal Kestis roaming it. Taking the Mantis to Jeddah, I'm reminded that the rest that comes with spaceflight does auto-heal me back up, which I didn't ask for, but I will take advantage of to clear out the desert crabs, Imperials, and whatever this big guy is without going down. I do hit a momentary roadblock when ambushed by an Imperial patrol, as I can't reach this rocket trooper to slay him, but having seen the Imperial's stupidity with their own explosives plenty before, causes me to position myself just right so the trooper can live up to that explosively stupid reputation. Live up being a figure of speech, of course, as he is very dead now. Marin's company is always a pleasure, more so because these sentry droids are trouble enough when they're alone, so 2 of them at once is easily overpowering. Fighting through the rest of the imp patrols and the lurking Skriton keeps me on edge, as without any healing, I'm nearly always on the verge of death. But that's where I do my best work, as it keeps me from acting too rash in combat, my fatal flaw. After Marin and I are caught in the Desert Storm, the fight to get to safety is hampered greatly by a rather strong Imperial patrol backed by an ATST. 4 times I'm brought low either by the soldiers, the ATST, or both at the same time. Without the Force, and because of the single blade's mediocre deflection abilities, I'm far too vulnerable to this much firepower, and so must take advantage of cover, lots of dodge work, and some patience in order to defeat this patrol. Having reached the safety of Seer's hideout, Bode gives me his spare blaster, and I promptly put that away to never be used, as it's not the Jedi way. Probably could have come in handy though, fighting through waves of super battle droids and hulking raiders on the shattered moon of Kobo, but pick yourself up after every fight and you're bound to find victory sooner or later. The single blade's value truly shines when I constantly switch from attacking to defending and then back again, all the while keeping my distance and letting the enemy come to me so I can strike the moment their attacks have been avoided. I'm then forced into Crossguard stance, and despite my best attempts to avoid its usage, as I've lucked into that before, I can't seem to get past this fight without using the Crossguard, even after several fatal attempts. Later, I will figure out an escape, but in this instance, I felt my only choice was to use the Crossguard on these droids in order to escape. Whatever healing comes from interplanetary patrol is undone the moment I touch down on Kobo, as a random patrol of a Viper droid and a Purge trooper tear into me, leaving me near death. 2 of my most hated enemy types working together. Delightful! Not that I need more than a sliver of health to dispatch the nearby monstrous Rancor, but it does make it so the first bounty hunter that ambushes me is able to finish the job in the blink of an eye, though he won't get much of a second attempt with his vulnerability to being constantly attacked. I get used to being low on health on my second visit to Jeddah, but only because of the occasional fight, as most fights are in my favor. That is, except for when I reach the refugee hideout and have to take on both Purge Trooper commanders and a sentry droid all at once. This is a truly miserable experience, no matter the tactic I take, but if I use the pillar in the middle to minimize how many enemies can target me at one time, I at least have a chance to pull through, even if I'm covered in bruises by the end of it. A lone shield trooper right after can heal me, but not in a way I appreciate. After failing to save Brother Armias, the tunnel out of here is not one of love, even with Marin by my side, but one of pain, as I'm heavily outnumbered. Marin being here, though, does soften that pain, and allowing the enemy to come to me gets rid of their advantage in numbers, but I'm still surprised when I find myself alive at the end of the tunnel. Breaking into the Raider base in search of the kidnapped droid Z is not a pleasant experience, with so many powerful guards blocking the way. Without Bode, I assure you I'd have fallen far more times here, but by making use of cover, I can minimize how much I'm overwhelmed while he does some of the dirty work. When I'm completely separated from him in the bowels of the ship, though, I learn how to lift and slam, which I can use to escape, but I have to be careful not to slam any turrets. That is, except for the one attached to a lift I will need to reach in order to escape. Despite my best attempts to learn how to fly, or parry-eliminate the guard standing on the lift, it is not happening, and this spot solidifies itself as an unavoidable moment of force slam usage. I do get to take my frustrations about that out on Dagan Gera moments later, so that's something. Just wish he'd stop winning, that would be great. Funny how the first try, when I started off already horribly battered, was one of my best attempts, but it goes to show how fighting cautiously is the best approach, and how when I have more health, I cease to do so. Nonetheless, I know Dagan's moves, and as always, his block is easy to break, so when I'm not making rookie mistakes, I'm demolishing his health and encouraging him to flee. Without healing stems and always being outnumbered means every fight is some trouble, but still, the return to the Shattered Moon isn't too bad thanks to Single Blade's reliable attack and guard, and the Raider leader Ravis is beaten in no time as I'm more than prepared for anything he can throw at me. He can heal all he wants. I don't need it myself, as his patterns are etched into my brain, making this battle a breeze. As long as I keep my guard up and stay on the move, the Imperials on Kobo aren't much trouble either, since they keep blowing each other up. But that can't be said for their outpost. With such a large multitude of imps trying to kill me, I struggle to stay ahead of their attacks and get caught up trying to kill as quickly as I'm able. After having a good deal of my health barbecued away, I'm surprised this is the attempt I pull through when I keep on the move, striking out any chance I get, but never stopping, so the enemy never gets much of a chance to lay me out again. It is no iconic fight scene for the ages, and there's far too many close calls, but it gets the job done. If that wasn't enough of a hit to the gut, things got much worse when I joined Bode in fighting off waves of raiders as we try to reach Dagon's position. The Electro Guards are annoying in duos, but bearable if Bode distracts one, though he loves to take his sweet time doing so. But the real hell is immediately after, as we fight 2 Raider brutes backed by 2 super battle droids. This fight isn't easy even with healing in the Force, so without it, I just want to cry. But there's no reason I can't cry and keep fighting as I strive to eliminate the droids as fast as I can, then keep on the move and hope Bode will deal with the Raiders. He's terribly slow about it, and I help out where I can, often dying for the trouble. But if I can keep out of their reach long enough, the rest of Dagon's men aren't much of an issue. Dagon Gera himself does give me a little trouble, but that comes from me being sloppy about my defense, messing up the timing, which is a big no-no when you have no mistake begons to pump yourself full of. But that's an easy fix, and then it's just a matter of taking advantage of all his parry openings, like the obvious spinning blade, and back-to-back strikes until the fallen Jedi has just plain fallen. With Dagon defeated and the compass that will lead us to the Sanctuary of Tandalore in hand, I take the time to enjoy a moment of peace with my found family. Of course, as I've been taught time and again, no peace lasts, but I would have liked it if it had lasted more than 12 hours. Worst of all, it spells the end of Cordova as Bode betrays us to the Empire. The traitor is no trouble to beat in combat, but there's no true winning this fight, and as sleep takes me, Seer works to save her people. Seer is a master of the single blade, making light work of anyone she comes across, so it's no trouble using her saber skills to slice through the Empire, but there's no getting around using Force Slam to end the Empire's invasion. When the Emperor's right hand Darth Vader shows up, things do go differently as I fight not only with the restriction of no force or healing, but also no damage in this one instance for the sake of my no damage challenge from before. The no damage aspect is a pain to pull off, but otherwise, staying close to Vader and breaking down his guard bit by bit still leads to a tragic end for Seer. With my mentors dead, the call of vengeance and the key to our quest for safety lie in the same place. Track down Bode within this Imperial facility. Most of the Imperials are no match for my power, but per usual, the sentry droids are the exception. Thing is, they have a weakness in their programming, where if they're drawn too far from their normal patrol route, they cease to function regularly and are easy to dismantle. Still, all my work is for naught when Bode flees with his daughter and calls down the entire garrison upon me. I'm supposed to tap into the dark side, I can feel that. But if I allow myself to be beaten, I discover I can completely skip using the dark side, but I'll wish I didn't going forward. If I had tapped into the power of the dark side, this hangar filled with powerful Imperials would only take a moment to beat. But as I'm barred from the Force and without the healing to survive such an overwhelming force, even with Marin's assistance, I'm doomed. For 2 hours I strive to break through the Imperial defense, and while I can use rapid attacks and hit and runs to slay the majority of the foes, the 2 Purge commanders that show up near the end are my bane. They never cease in their attack, constantly roll out of retribution, and fire from all over the base. Then add on to the other Purge troopers and droids trying to kill me at the same time, how little health I have by the time I reach this point, and Marin's minuscule assistance as much as I love her, you can see why I fail over and over. Trying to kill the Purge commanders immediately often ends up with a blaster bolt to the stomach, which interrupts me and makes me an even easier target. Only enough sprinting, deflecting shots, and the Force being with me do I have any chance to kill both commanders. This leaves me with the rest of the garrison to deal with, including a ton of sentry droids, but thankfully, those are far less of a threat since only 2 have ranged attacks, meaning I can run back and forth, letting Marin do the majority of the work while I make the occasional attack to speed up the process. My suffering is not over as I face 5 waves of Imperials, many of which are the Jedi-killing Purge Troopers. The Staff and the Baton Purge Troopers aren't much worry usually, nor are the Flame Troopers and Miniguns, as none of them have much health to cut through. But the Viper Droids and Purge Commanders are my true burden. I never thought I'd hate anything more than the Purge Commanders, but the Viper Droids would be it for sure, as they relentlessly attack, something I'd normally stop with a Force Slam, but here I have to rely on deflection and aerial attacks to remove them. If I don't do that nearly instantly, I'll be quickly overwhelmed as there are 2 of them and a Purge Commander. Without the droids, the Commander isn't much trouble, but when I have to fight 2 Commanders at the same time, I prefer to make use of the high ground so I can whittle away their health from safety. Finally, with all that taken care of and tons of failures behind me, I can open the way to Tanalorr and confront Bode. He refuses to listen to reason and refuses to surrender, and even worse, he refuses to lose in combat. Bode's fury means his strikes truly hurt, punishing any mistake I make, which I make plenty of, as I refuse to take him seriously. Bode's block is easy to overwhelm, and for half the fight, I can see all his attacks coming with ease, which makes it more embarrassing when I fall for them anyway. But the true reason Bode is able to beat me 9 times is when he grabs me with the Force, I need to defend myself with the Force. As I've cut myself off from it, I'm not able to do so, and since the attack takes nearly all of my health in one blow, it often means my end. The only way to counter that is to make sure he can never grab me, and the only way to do that is to keep my distance at all times, only getting 1 or 2 strikes in per dodge of his unblockable charge and kick attacks. It is slow going, but once his blasters are gone and he resorts only to his blade, the avoid tactic remains the same until he force pulls me, leaving himself vulnerable to my hit and runs. Even in defeat, Bode refuses to relent no matter what we say or do, even putting his daughter at risk, forcing my hand into ending my once friend for good. I didn't want to do that, but I did what I had to, right? With Bode's death, I can say, hey, wait, what just happened? I really don't remember what I was saying. No matter. What I do know is that the Senator guards aren't any trouble, even though I'm forced to use the single blade here, as I don't have access to any other stance till right after this incident. When the Senator's ship crashes, I must admit, I feel a serious case of deja vu, but I don't have time to contemplate it, as I get caught off guard while trying to master the use of the controlled lightsaber throw. When Bode rescues me from a stormtrooper, I feel a sense of hate pass through me upon seeing him, which makes no sense, as I barely know the man. Not only that, but without his assistance, I would definitely fall to all these Imperials, as I stay on the brink of death, barely staying ahead of all their firepower. It is fantastic how powerful of a guard the double-sided blade has, as I will need every last bit of it to survive. After we catch up to the Senator and get the information we came for, I still can't shake this feeling that something's off, and that causes me to hold back with my team, chatting with each of them. I know we should keep moving, but something's telling me that if I go through that door, everything will change. But no matter how I procrastinate, we do need to move on. Despite my shocked expression, nothing feels shocking about the Ninth Sister's ambush, about the twins dying, and Gabs giving her life to save mine. It feels surreal, but I knew this would happen. Not like a premonition in the Force, but as though I've lived through this already. The Imperials hunting me don't last long, slaying themselves when they try to blast me, and only the sentry droid gives me any trouble. I have to be careful to time my strikes carefully, as my combos can't be stopped once started, leaving me vulnerable to counterattack, but constant dodge work serves this stance well. Ninth Sister makes things easy for me, as I never have to worry about over-attacking, as she'll parry me when she's no longer vulnerable, helping me to escape any counterattack she has, and making the fight quite simple. Killing her doesn't change the fact that I failed to save the twins or Gabs though. While escaping Coruscant, I can't do anything but helplessly watch as Bravo perishes as well. Just like that, my whole team is dead, my friends are dead, and I know this isn't the first time I've watched them die. I have no clue what this all means, but all I can do is keep moving forward, try to let go of the pain of their deaths, and seek out Grease on Kobo. There is no emotion, there is peace. My double-bladed saber is the pinnacle of blaster deflection, but without the Force to aid me, there's nothing I can do against grenades and rockets, making my defense far from perfect. Still, focused attacks and deflections that eliminate ranged opponents first take the majority of the danger away usually, and from there, it's just about mopping up the melee fighters. Long as I don't drop my guard, anyway. With my path cleared, I take a moment to breathe in Kobo's tremendously beautiful landscape. And yet again, I feel the unmistakable feeling that I've witnessed this before. Perhaps this is just a dream or a vision, and I can force myself awake by doing something reckless. All I get for my trouble is more pain. Perhaps if I refuse to follow the path I'm drawn towards and simply explore the wilds, this feeling of deja vu will cease. But that too yields the same results of pain. Lots and lots of pain. Even after that detour of suffering, saving Turgle from the Raiders, meeting up with Grease again, even falling underground into an old Republic training facility and discovering the droid Z, I know I've done all this before. When Bo joins us in the cantina, that unexplainable feeling of hate and rage fills me yet again. But I find no matter how much I try to voice my concern, I can't get the words out. Guess I just have to do what I have to, and hope the Force will sort things out as I take to the wilds again in search of the way to Tanalorr. I don't do anything perfectly, but I find myself scraping by in each fight as long as I fight defensively, as that's where the double saber excels. Anytime I'm aggressive is where I fall apart. This means when I face off against Dagan Gera, all it takes is one blow to beat me, but he only gets one win, as there's no breaking through my defense with his slow, predictable strikes. Then on Jedha, other than the sentry droids and the Skriton, nothing can break past my defense before the deflections kill them. I spend nearly the entire time close to death, but still, I'm breathing nonetheless. This truly illustrates that it's usually only the extremely hardy, close-ranged enemies that can ignore my strikes that are the true counter to my double saber. Trashing an ATST with ease, I know I've been here before with Marin, but this is an experience I'm glad to have a redo of. And seeing Cordova and Seer again fills me with such an unexpected joy that I just can't explain, much like everything else going on, but it's one I'm okay with. Trying to get around using the Crossguard on the Shattered Moon is responsible for most of my failures, and fighting two powerhouse beasts at once while searching Kobo is responsible for many more. In the end, I don't beat them both in combat, but simply work around them, solving the puzzle regardless of their interference, using dodge work and repeated attempts to get it right. Returning to Jedha, I'm surprised to discover the first real threat here is gravity. For having done this before, it doesn't change that I'm not very good at it, it seems. One of my most unexpected failures, that's for sure. Wouldn't be the only time I lose to gravity either, which is even sadder. I do reach Brother Armias in time, but he becomes another name on the list of those I fail, and that isn't even the last failure of the day. Over and over, I clash with this tunnel filled with flame troopers, a sentry droid, and plenty of stormtroopers, and over, I fail to overcome these obstacles. The range on my saber throw isn't up to my needs, or even if it is, the power is not enough. Flame troopers are truly the great counters to me, as I have nothing to deflect back at them, and getting in range of them doesn't work out well for me. The key is to make sure they all run out of fuel at the exact same time, dive in, and try to kill them all before they can fire back up. That, or I could have just dived in, dived out, and repeated, which would have been far less risky, but that seems to be too smart for me. Returning to Kobo, I have little trouble striking down the Rancor, and then very painfully fighting my way through the Raider base with Bode. Nothing like surviving all these killer droids, only to perish when my dash randomly fails to recharge, and I plummet right to my doom. Twice. Saving Z, I find that the double saber's long combos leave me far too vulnerable to Dagan's speed, but it's mostly my failure to time the parries and dodges right that actually caused my triple failure. Stop overextending myself and start getting the parry timing down, he stops being a threat. But it doesn't change that he escapes again, and none of it prepares me for my return to the Shattered Moon. That feeling of everything having happened before is only vaguely there as I make my way through the labs, since I certainly don't think I've been this badly beaten before. Without the Force, without healing, and despite the focus of double-sided being on crowd control, this crowd is just too much for me to control. I can't tank through the mini attacks coming at me from all sides, and I can't break the enemy guard fast enough to deal any worthwhile damage before I get zapped for my trouble. These two Magna Guards are hard enough to face, let alone throwing in several commander droids and a jetpack raider all at once. Using dive strikes, I can slice bits of their health away, but it only takes one miscalculated strike for me to get bullied into the ground. I mean it! They do not relent, and I'm not able to either, as their block recovers quickly if I don't stay on top of it. But that leaves me vulnerable, which only has one ending for me. Yeah, this is not a pleasant experience, and no matter the tactic I take, the results are the same. Me on the floor, bloody and beaten.
Just keep failing, Master.
Do you? Good. Keep failing. Keep getting back up. That is the only way to succeed. Do not allow yourself to be weighed down by ego and pretense. Let go of what you fear to lose and rise up. Now, again.
My old master's words ring in my ears, and I force myself back up every time I fall. Because eventually, it does lead to me getting the flow right, killing the raiders as fast as I can, but not too fast that I leave myself vulnerable, and staying on the move at all times. Even with all that, it is a close one, but I prevail just long enough to open the door forward before the jetpack raider remembers to show up. But he's too late. I have enough of the door open that I can wiggle past the enemy line of sight on the next try and clear the way to Ravis, who proceeds to bash me apart for the next half hour. Ravis is incredibly fast and unrelenting, and like I discovered earlier, the double saber doesn't do well against any enemy that can just tank my strikes, as it leaves me way too open to counterattack. Still, it should not have gone nearly this badly if I had just reined myself in and kept to only single strikes and no combos. But perhaps it's the mental exhaustion or the numerous concussions along the way to here, but I keep finding myself missing the key parry and dodge timing, and Ravis punishes every mistake heavily, restraining myself only to a single strike, or two if his block is broken. I can minimize how often I leave myself vulnerable, and once I get back into the flow of combat, Ravis doesn't last long from there. Then on to another half hour lost, getting beaten down trying to invade the Imperial listening post. But funny enough, only a few losses facing the Brute Super Battle Droid combo, as it's easy to deflect the Super Battle Droids, and I take no risk with the Brutes, whittling away at their massive health pools. Having pushed through all those trials and tribulations, I'm against Dagan Gera once again, and I am quite disappointed how low I can bring him over and over and lose anyway. Excruciatingly close to victory, in fact, but still, I fall. Force Repulse is great for removing his duplicates, and while he is quick, Dagan's also predictable, so these failures really can be chalked up to over-aggression and bad timing on my part. Easy enough to fix, which I demonstrate by screwing up early into this try, but refusing to get hit again with constant dodging and jumping out of the way of his mini attacks until he cannot carry on any further. As I lay there, listening to Dagan gloat, searing pain ripping across my chest, I know I'll survive this. That Dagan's inability to get past his own past will be his undoing. That Bode will give me the needed opening to finish the Obsessed Jedi, and that we'll be on our way home right after for a hero's welcome. I know something horrible is coming, but just like everything else on this strange trip, I don't know what to do about it. If Master Tapal was here, maybe he'd know how to help me. But Seer and Cordova are just as wise, and it doesn't matter, as I can't seem to get the words out. I know whatever's about to happen revolves around Bode, and in his words, I see the obvious fear there for his daughter.
I saw Kata in her room, stormtroopers coming for her, breaking down the door. But you know what? That's not gonna happen. We're closer than ever to giving the people we love real safety.
I can see clearly what's about to happen, but as though I'm outside of my body, I have no ability to stop it. I watch myself as I hug the man I know is about to betray me, as I enjoy this night with my found family and embrace Marin as though what's about to happen isn't going to happen. But it is, and I can't seem to stop myself or it from occurring. Bode's fear of loss of his loved ones causes him to force that loss upon us, as he takes the life of Cordova, with Seer murdered as well thanks to his actions. Is this some test of the Force? Am I failing that test when I spend half an hour painfully breaking into this Imperial base and then nearly 3 hours trying to break out of it? No matter how much I bash myself against the waves of Imperials, I fail to come out on top. Each wave is more than capable of tearing my health away, and since that's in such short supply, I have little chance of victory. If every enemy had a blaster, that would be great for me, but the majority are melee with strong defense, which really is my weakness. I may not tap into the dark side, but all I'm feeling are dark emotions as I'm crushed over and over and over. Every defeat, I'm reminded of Bode's betrayal, knowing I'm only in this hell because of his actions, and every loss only enrages me further. That anger carries me forward as I dissect the problem, carefully removing each enemy before me, one by one, never staying still, getting lucky when Marin weakens the Purge commanders for me to finish off, and despite how much agony I'm in, I keep going, as it's not over yet. It is slow going, and without Marin, I'd have been lost there forever. But I do crawl my way out of that hell eventually. The Imperials that ambushed me on Kobo are not much of a problem at all with my deflection abilities, and with them out of the picture, there's only Bode to contend with. I wish that I could say justice was swift, but it takes an hour and a half of fighting to stop Bode, as once again, his force grab proves too much for me. It doesn't help that my strikes don't do much damage to him in the few openings I get, and this causes me to take a lot of extra risk, staying close to Bode, never relenting in on my attack, so he'll keep striking back, making it simple to parry him and leave him vulnerable. It is not a worthy risk, honestly, but it does pay off, and this nightmare can finally be over. Bode's death won't change that I trusted him in the first place, and that's what killed Seer and Cordova. I will never forgive myself for that. But please just tell me it's over and that I can rest now. No, no, no! I don't want to do this again! I remember this time! Let me turn back! Twins! Please don't let it go this way! But there's no stopping it. As I march through the underbelly of this wretched city, seeing all the corruption on clear display, I'm powerless to do anything but watch. When the plan goes awry, as it always does, I can do nothing to stop it. When I retrieve my twin blades, I can slice through the Imperials, but I'm reckless, stupid, and take far more damage here than on my previous 2 visits. What's the point after all? Even if I wasn't trapped in this loop, I might as well be slicing through fog for all the good I'm doing. Killing these men won't stop the Imperial war machine, and try as I might, my blades can't even strike Bode. I might as well be a Force ghost already. Maybe I am. I've had enough close calls. Maybe I just thought I survived, and this is my light flashing over and over again in my mind as I lay dying. Replaying my mistakes over and over. How could I ever tell? Though I certainly don't remember ever making quite this many mistakes on Coruscant. But that's largely my recklessness, combined with the dual-wield stance being the opposite of the double-bladed, in that it is terrible at blocking and deflecting, while shining in rapid attacks and dodging, making these large groups of gun-happy imps my bane. Staying close and constantly dodging, jumping, and swiping is the key to move on. But I'm only moving on to watching my friends die again, so what am I fighting for? I know what my friends are gonna say, but I stretch out all the time I have left with them as far as I can before I'm forced to walk back through that door. Again, the twins are hopelessly outmatched against the Ninth, and Gabs is gone the moment she saves me. I never even got to thank her, and at this moment, I wish she hadn't saved me. Maybe she'd still be alive then. Avenging them by slaying the Ninth is incredibly simple, but it can't save Bravo. I wish it had been Bode. As I sit in my ship and gaze upon both friends lost and friends of old that I know I will see again soon, I know I can't just sit back and let this repeat once more. Maybe this isn't a test, or some dying playback. Maybe this is the Force giving me a chance to change everything, to right my wrongs and save those I failed to save before. I couldn't save my friends on Coruscant, but I won't lose anyone else. The Empire is done taking anyone else from me. With my spirit renewed, I show far more sense than I did on Coruscant, carefully, but quickly slicing away any resistance that gets in my way. Unlike my previous visits, I don't immediately race off to the next problem, but instead, I take the time to chat with everyone in Grease's cantina, getting to know them. As the cantina grows and more join it, I will continue to take the time to make everyone's acquaintance and friendship. We're all connected in the Force, and taking the time to know them better will strengthen me. Even silly Turgle. And continuing in the differences, this time, there's no fight I shy from. Every beast and villain that blocks my way, however dangerous and painful it may get, I refuse to run, choosing instead to clash with them. I will be strong enough to save my friends, and that means no running away from any fight. It's not easy, and I can't pause for even a heartbeat, but whatever it takes, right? Still, haven't figured out this whole auto force parry though, but what's another bruise for the collection? I may not be able to stop myself from freeing Dagon, but I don't want to stop. He's still the key to finding the way to Tanalorr, and when this is all said and done, my family still needs that sanctuary from the Empire, as do thousands of others. Even when I begin this duel with low health, Dagon loses in one go, as the dual wield stance shines in 1v1s, as even when I'm reckless, I can cancel my attacks and go right back to defense in a nanosecond, keeping Dagon from ever hitting me and making short work of him. I can't keep Bode from coming along on the journey, but I can keep a close eye on him, though it won't stop me from trying to put a saber in him, not that he seems to notice. While I ponder how to remedy that problem, I take on Jedha's Beast and Imperials, coming out of every fray, badly beaten, but still breathing. Except those sentry droids, I hate those guys. Before too long, we do reach Cere's base, and I'm gazing upon Cordova again. Alive and well, but in my mind, I see his death clear as day. Cere's as well. I still don't quite see a way out of this, but I'm gonna find it. I have to. I will not lose them again, not like Master T'Pol. Bode will not take them from me. Despite my newfound inner fire, it doesn't stop me from the first loss I've experienced against the Rancor during these trials. It just feels right to jump a lot in dual wield stance, but that's not the way to go against a massive creature that can pluck you right out of the air. Don't do that, take advantage of dual wield's superior lightsaber throwing, and it's a cinch to win. Jetting off to the Shattered Moon to gain the Crossguard stance, I realize at this point that if I don't use the meditation point at all, which I normally do to save progress and then proceed to die, the zipline out of here will auto-open up and I can keep from using the Crossguard. A short time after that, I did get a comment pointing out I can change stances at the meditation point, which is a much safer and smarter option. I really wish I had learned that before I died repeatedly here, but better late than never. Returning to Jedha, I take some extra time to check in with Cere, and I... Enough! Armias needs me, and I can't let him die. None of the fighting to reach him is painless, but it's all bearable with dual wield speed. As I sprint to Armias, I have to hope that everything I've put myself through, every battle, every duel, every connection in the Force, will give me the strength to not break the will of the Force, but to shift it just enough that I can save him. But as the door opens, I find my will slipping away, unable to do anything different from before, and Armias is crushed before my eyes like all the times before. No! No! I swore I'd save him! He's dead. He's dead. I can't save him. But that doesn't mean I can't save Cordova and Cere. I have to keep moving. The tunnel gives me trouble, as it always does, but not as much as it has, since dual wield is so good at getting in and out of fights. Plus, just using the stance keeps me in the mindset of never stop moving, wiring my brain to be ready to dodge out of the way of any attack that may come my way. I'm not always fast enough, but the idea sticks well enough to see me through to the other side. With the threat destroyed, I don't rush back to base. Instead, I choose to ride through the desert with Merrin close to me, trying to enjoy the little moments of peace between the violence while I can. Of course, I didn't have to slay the Golden Skrite a few seconds later. But clearly, I am not strong enough to change the course of fate, so every battle may make the difference. Whatever comes, whatever happens, I can't let anyone else die for me. I just have to be strong enough, just have to train harder. All of this training is on display when I breach the Raider base, getting hit, but dodging endlessly so they can never finish the job. As long as I take advantage of cover and lightsaber throw, dashing in and out of combat, canceling my attacks the moment I see a hit coming so I can dodge away, and playing the long game, I'm able to survive everything thrown at me. This is definitely not the form to fight Droidekas in though, as the deflection is abysmal, and I can't beat them unscathed ever. Far from it. But I don't have to be pretty, I just have to be alive. Which I fail to be when I go up against Dagan again. I'm really getting tired of his pretentious face. I do worse every time I reach this fight, and all I can say is, I'm dumb. That really's it. Dual wield is perfect for beating him, and should have been done in one, but I mistimed my parries and dodges far too much despite all this experience I have fighting him. There's really no good reason beyond that for my failures here, but at least Ravis goes down with only a couple scratches on me. Dual wield stance truly is the Ravis killer. Going after the Imperials, I discover the large force securing this down shuttle is another level of stupid, as simply maneuvering around this rock pillar will cause the majority to die as they chase me by running right into the flames. Genius, fellas. And the Imperial listening post goes surprisingly well, as I have far less trouble with the sentry droids as I use hit and runs, lightsaber throws, and simply get one to blow up the other to minimize my struggles. Of course, struggle can't be avoided for long, and I fall over a dozen times facing off against the waves of raiders as I'm really good at dodging one brute, only to be squished by the other one, or just failing to dodge at all. I can only ever get in a rare strike here and there, and I hate to admit it, but Bode's constant blaster fire really makes a vital difference in escaping the suffering of this section. Having failed so much in Dagan's second fight, I make up for it here by having far less trouble taking him down for good, as I actually am one with the flow of combat, and I hope this is the last I see of his smug mug. Staring at Bode, I sense his fear, his uncertainty, and I feel those same feelings in myself. I don't want to risk going back to Jeddah yet, so instead, I take off for Coruscant. Hounding Imperials and destroying a special sentry droid is an enjoyable way to spend my time, but I know I'm just putting off what may come. I have to believe everything will go differently this time, that my actions will measure up and the Force will flow with my will. Even though I know I shouldn't, I put it off. I instead just wander the base, chatting with everyone I can find, training as hard as I can, gazing out at the galaxy map and wishing I could just shove all my family into the Mantis and jet off to somewhere far from here. But the Empire's always going to find us. I don't have any other options. Giving the compass to Cordova, everything begins to play out as it always does. A wonderful night of hope and joy, ignorant of the horror that's about to unfold, of the betrayer in our midst. When the sun comes up, I stay on that cliff, trying desperately to think of some way out of this. I try to escape, try to find a different way out of the base, but the Force will not let me go. After one last jump, I wake up, not on the cliff, but in the archives with the others. The last place I want to be right now. I chat with Seer for as long as I can. I try to talk with Bode, to reason with him, get him to see the light of the Jedi he used to be. But no words come out. Everything that has been done, everything we fought for, it always comes to this moment and nothing can be done to change it. Bode will always be consumed by his fear. I will always be too slow to stop it and too weak to stop him, meaning I'm not there when Seer needs me. She will die to the shadow and her life's work will be ash all around me. The fighting will be brutal as I tear apart the Imperials who send Bode to infiltrate my team, but this time I'll fare far better against the Hanger as I take advantage of dual wield's superior skills against the mini melee units and using lightsaber throw to eliminate the Purge commanders before they can finish me. I will be bleeding, I will be hurt, and it will not be an easy time. But What else is new? Nothing can compare to what I just lost. Again. Before I go after Bode, I stop by the cantina one final time to check on everyone. One of the cantina members, Grok, he's missing, and it doesn't take me long to find his body, murdered by the Imperials. Another that I failed. How many more are the Imperials gonna take? Everything I tried to do, and none of it changed. Prof, Master Tapal, Gabs, the twins, Bravo, Grok, Armaius, Cordova, Seer. Nothing I do changes any of that. But I can still kill Bode for what he's done. Bode is no longer difficult, but he's still dangerous. It's easy to be overwhelmed by his Force Slam, and the dual wield is not made for parrying shots, but it will prove sufficient so I can last long enough to take advantage of his pull. And this time, I'll toss in far more uses of my lightsaber throw, as his recklessness leaves him vulnerable quite often. When Bode is beaten once again, I'm not surprised this time when I blink and find myself on Coruscant. For the first time since this began, I lose to the Senator's guards as I throw caution to the wind and just pound on them in my fury. Not once, but twice. Experience and training mean very little when you ignore it all and just bash away thoughtlessly. Even after I grab my blaster and get to cutting down these Imperials, improper positioning only gets me a nasty headache. I am sick of those droids, and Blaster Stance's power and range makes it so they're more like toys put up against me than any true threat. My master always frowned on the use of blasters, and I see why. With a lightsaber, there's a deliberateness and a personalness I can't escape when I'm forced to take a life. That every life taken is one I have to acknowledge. With a blaster, I point and click and my enemies are dead before I even acknowledge their existence. It makes taking lives easy. My master would abhor seeing me use it now. But he's dead. And with the blaster mixed with my blade, sending the ninth sister to join him is as easy as breathing. So what does it matter? Whether she dies by bolt or blade? Dead is dead. Something I almost am when I'm reckless against the Rancor. But I've suffered through worse. It may not matter saving Turgle or killing the Raiders and Imps, but after enduring so many of their blows, it almost feels right to kill them with the ease the blaster provides me. The Force is supposed to be my ally, but the Force seems to have abandoned me, or worse, trapped me in this nightmare, so at least the blaster at my side is dependable. When Dagon strikes me down in a single strike due to me being so battered already, I refuse to let him land another blow to show him how far beneath me he is at this point. All his power with the Force, and my blaster and saber skills make him seem as powerful as a youngling. As for the sentry droids on Jedha, this is the first trip that doesn't cost me any losses, as I realized that striking only once, dodging away, and then repeating after every attack the droids attempt makes avoiding them simple. Another threat I no longer have to fear. Whatever pain is done to me, I pay back immediately and without hesitation, something my new weapon makes easy to do. When I first told Marin, the fight is all I know, I had no clue just how real that would become. I don't waste time talking to anyone anymore. The fight is all that matters, because outside of the fighting, seeing Cordova, Seer, Bode, the full dream of Tanalorr, that is real pain. A blaster bolt, a blade, a hammer, the physical pain, that means nothing in comparison. And in battle, I can lose myself to the flow of it all. There's only me and those who stand in my way. And soon enough, there's only me. Defeat becomes far more rare with the blaster at my side. I thought there was power in defense and restraint, but now I see. Pure aggression yields the real results, as bounty hunters and lightsaber raiders die like nothing before me. On my way out of Kobo, I moved to protect two innocents from a ferocious Mogu, just as I've done the last 3 times. But this time, I stopped myself. I saved them here. Just for them to be in danger again next loop? Why? It doesn't matter. If they want to live, they can save themselves. I can't do anyone any good, clearly. The only thing I can do is be the weapon that I am and make sure those who deserve it get what's coming to them. For once, the tunnel of death that has caused me so much suffering in every loop is painful, sure, but it's doable in one try. The flame troopers are annoying, but my blaster already weakened them enough for Marin to finish off, and the sentry droid no longer worries me now that I understand to take it slow. All the other threats in this cave might as well be rushing to their deaths for all the good they can do against me. Same goes for the majority of threats aboard the Raider HQ as I cut my way through with little trouble. I no longer try to break guards as much as I try instead to wait for openings in my foe's defense and strike precisely, dodging back and repeating till it's done, which puts me in far less danger. And the blaster's powerful blasts ensure droidicas aren't even a little of a threat. Mistakes still happen, but far less commonly, and before I know it, I'm facing down Dagan yet again. He catches me off guard twice, as I fail to account for his speed and when he randomly ignores the damage I do to him. But regardless of what Dagan Gera thinks of himself, he's a footnote in this story, a persistent roadblock between me and the true Phantom Menace. The droids and raiders on the Shattered Moon that gave me so much trouble in the other 3 runs are even less than a footnote this time, as I keep my foes on the defense, unable to do much more than become scrap. As for Ravis, I'm disappointed when he catches me twice. Very preventable losses, but I wasn't in the flow as I no longer consider him more than a nuisance. But I should know better. Anyone can become a threat if they're underestimated, especially the highly trained centuries-old warrior that lives for the thrill of battle. Not that that's enough to save him from my blade. Just like every other notable battle that I struggled with in the former loops, the battle in the Imperial Listening Post and the battle against the waves of raiders are both far easier this time. Stay within the flow of combat. Be ready to dodge anything that comes at you, preferably sideways, not backwards, while only allowing yourself the occasional hit when the enemy drops their guard after an attack, and keep yourself from acting rash makes everything far more manageable. Plus, the blaster's range and power don't hurt at all. I may not have much health left by the time I reach Dagan, but at least I only needed one attempt to make it through his defenses. That makes it easy for him to beat me, but he'll only get a few victories before I take him down. I hope that every single blow from the measly Jedi he sees me as scares him. That he feels a bit of the fear that he forced into me, a bit of the pain that he has caused me. Bode is responsible for his choices, and I'll make sure he pays for them. But the fear that Dagan's illusions put into him here, that's what tips the scales. So I'm hoping every time my blade pierces the fallen Jedi that it truly, deeply hurts, because it will never hurt enough for what he's unleashed. I'm torn between the love I feel for Marin and the hate I feel for Bode, and I just can't make myself go to Jeddah again. So I changed course back to Kobo. I make my way to the caverns in order to kill the second Rancor that lives here, as well as the trio of lightsaber raiders that lurk here to murder me. It's their corpses that hit the dust when all is said and done, with the only trouble I have is in my inability to resist the call of gravity way too often. They died so quickly, but still, I put off leaving, instead making my way to the other raider base where they keep the giant murderous toad, spawn of Ogdo. This is a tough battle, just as I long for, as the toad slams at killer toad speeds that I can barely avoid. I get worried when I almost win the first couple tries, thinking this will be over sooner than I'd like, but I always screw up before I can finish the job. Still, after 7 losses in under 10 minutes since I arrived to slay the beast, the deed is done, and it lies dead. The toad is incredibly weak to the blaster's powered shots, leaving it vulnerable to my lunge, and as long as I stay on the move, often jumping out of range, it struggles to catch me, which leads to my inevitable victory. With its demise, though, I can no longer put off doing what I have to, and I set course for Seer's base. I don't bother wasting any more time, and I simply watch as everything plays out as horrifically as it always does. I'm sick of watching everyone I love die. I'm sick of all this pain, all this suffering, of failing everyone I care about because I'm not strong enough. Why is the Force doing this to me? This started long before this loop. Ever since the Clone Wars, I have done nothing but watch as those I care about suffer and die, leaving me alone, knowing I'm too weak to help them as they die so I can live. I'm so tired of always being the survivor. If being a Jedi has caused me and everyone around me endless pain, then maybe it's time I be something else. If I'm gonna suffer, then I'm gonna make sure those who cause the suffering do it with me. As I slaughter the Imperial base, clarity comes to me at last as I realize I am more than a survivor. I am the victor. Whatever the galaxy throws at me, whatever setbacks I face, I'm the one that's still standing at the end of it. It's my blade, my blaster, my power that cuts down the Imperials. Despite all of the odds against me, I prove greater than them. I never asked for all this. I begged for the alternative, in fact. But if this is what it's come to, then so be it. I will do what I must. 5 times. That's all Bode is getting, as my reckless, in-your-face attacks leave me vulnerable to his Force Slam as always. I really need to stop doing that, but knowing it can have the fight in 2 if I can break through his block and tear him apart that way is too tempting for me to resist. Even on the 6th try, I keep doing it, leading to getting hit by his Force Slam, but it's the only hit he's going to manage, as between my powered blaster shots when he's attacking and my counter on his always vulnerable Force Pull, Bode does not last long. As the traitor breathes his final breath, I feel victorious for just a moment, before it slips away as I find myself back on Coruscant yet again. How many more times will I find myself here? The Crossguard takes some getting used to, as its attacks are slow but powerful, leaving me vulnerable far more than I'm used to. If I don't time my strikes very carefully, I'll be punished for it. But on the bright side, I hit so hard that I only need a few strikes to destroy any foe. Another upside is that it has one of the most powerful blocks possible, and a deflect that interrupts, potentially knocks down, and damages any attacker, making it tie as the best defensive stance with double-bladed, but easily outdoing it offensively with how hard it hits. Every single slice of my blade carves a good chunk off the Ninth Sister, keeping up the tradition of showing her how far I've outgrown her since our meeting on Kashyyyk 5 years ago. Feels like a lifetime ago now. And despite how short of a time it's been since I first ever faced Dagan, that too feels like a lifetime since I started us down this path and freed him from his slumber. With Crossguard's slower speed, even a moment of hesitation when Dagan's guard isn't broken can mean damage. But since Crossguard's block is so hard to break, parrying and breaking down the fallen Jedi isn't very difficult at all. After slaying the Rancor, the Bounty Hunter, and the Lightsaber Raider with ease, I find myself saving those 2 innocents from the Mogu, and then right after, I make my way back to the cantina to chat with the people within. I genuinely cannot say why I bother, as I know their lives won't stay saved for long, nor the connections I forge last. I guess I can't resist my natural instincts. Just like gravity, helping others has too much of a pull on me, even though it always hurts and could definitely be avoided. But I suppose all the pain I go through can be avoided if I just stop rushing into the next fight. But somehow, that has never occurred to me to just do nothing. I may go down again and again while facing off with the Imps on Jedha, and even more so against the Raiders on their headquarters, but I never stop pushing forward. Even though I'm going in a loop, I can't stop myself from the fight. It really is all I know. Sometimes it means I'm better and barely struggle, like when I face off against Dagan for the 2nd time, or Ravis, as they can't break through my defense. But other times, like when I face Dagan Gera again for the 3rd time, all that experience in defense will mean nothing, as I throw caution to the wind and attack without thought or sense, leading to over a dozen losses. In the end, I will always win, but it is not a pretty win, as I still refuse to play the cautious game with Dagan, never letting up, even when I know I should, but dodging and parrying just enough that I'm able to come out on top. Usually, by this point, I'd be sprinting as far from Jedha and Seer's base as I can get, trying to put off Cordova's and Seer's death as much as I can. But not this time. I can't keep running. I'll always end up here inevitably. Doesn't mean I have to be in a hurry, though. For the first time in a very, very long time, I'm not in a rush to fight someone, or save someone, or find some sanctuary. I'm just walking towards a fate I know I can't escape, and allowing myself to meditate on all that's come before. I think about all that I lost, all those moments alone, those counting on me, those who needed me and I failed, those who betrayed my trust and turned on me, those who do unspeakable evils and get away with it every day as everyone suffers beneath them, knowing that the cycle of pain will never end and I will never be able to save everyone, or even those few that I love. How am I supposed to take even another step?
These are dark times. This galaxy suffers.
Why fight when you can't win?
How could you let the galaxy fall to this unworthy machine of an empire?
Years of fighting. Everything I'm doing feels pointless. The Empire's only growing stronger.
You chose a hard path.
And it hasn't made a difference. The walking away isn't an option for me. There is no home. Home was the Order. It was my teacher. It was everyone I lost. What does their sacrifice mean if I go and I just give up and stick my head in the sand? It would mean leaving the fight. And well, the fight is all I know. I have to hold the line. I keep worrying about something bad happening to one of you. Or friends suffering because they followed me. And I couldn't do anything to stop it.
You gotta know when to walk away from a rigged game, otherwise you are gonna end up losing something you could never replace.
Remember that you're not alone in all this.
Glad you're here, bud.
I got your back, brother.
The compromises I made created a future for my people.
They spit your name out like a curse.
At least they are alive.
You don't want Kata spending her whole life in hiding, do you?
If she's safe, Cal, then yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, that's what the Empire does best. Take something you love and make it something you can't stand the sight of anymore. The more people in your life, the more you can lose. You know?
Mama.
Easy, sweetheart. I know. It's just me and you now, Kata. Just me and you.
When she sees what you've done for her, she'll understand.
I hope so.
You think yourself a survivor, but you are a failure.
But you're hurting bad inside, Kestis. All the guilt you're feeling for those fools you led to their deaths.
Seer, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm sure gonna miss you.
You failed your friends. You'll fail yourself.
Loss, suffering, shame, anger.
It will consume everything in its path. Until there is only ash.
And when the Empire comes, will you be able to protect my little girl?
Is that what troubles you? Losing yourself?
And now it's too late.
You've strayed from the path. And you are no Jedi.
We lost, haven't we?
But then, I feel BD-1 adjust on my shoulder as he cranes to take in everything around us. Always curious, always hopeful, always there. So much so that sometimes I forget he's there. Ever since we found each other 5 years ago on Bogano, he's been my steady companion, with me through everything, always helping me out of every problem as much as I've done the same for his curious soul. He made sure I wasn't alone in my darkest moments. And more importantly, when I couldn't be there for Seer, it was BD-1 who stayed by her side. The most dependable friend in all the galaxy, helping me just by being there, and I would not be alive today without him. I wouldn't be alive today without so many people. Master T'Pol training me to face the horrors of war, and then laying down his life to protect me. Prof risking his life to buy me time. Grease and Seer pulling me out of a certain death by the Inquisitors back on Braca. Cordova's words and BD-1's companionship getting me on my feet on Ilum. Marin fighting by my side, saving me from Malicos, and then again, not only saving me from the Imperial drill, but giving me a reason to keep going beyond all this fighting. The twins fighting the Inquisitor, probably knowing they didn't stand a chance, but doing it anyway to protect the rest of us. Gabs putting herself in the way of the blast meant for me, without hesitation. I'm only a survivor because so many people in my life risked so much for me, gave so much for me. And more than that, I'm the Jedi that I am, the person that I am, because of all their wisdom and help along the way.
These are dark times. I helped those I could. This galaxy suffers. But there's still beauty.
Cal Kestis, get over here, you son of a bogling! Oh, it's been a while. I missed you, kid.
Wherever I went, you were never far from my thoughts.
You have demonstrated great bravery and wisdom in the face of overwhelming adversity.
The odds are against us. But they will always be against us. Cal, you were just a child when they sent you off to war. You know, there was a time when I remember that the Jedi were more than just weapons. You never give up. And that's what inspires all of us. Cal, you can't fight your way out of some situations.
The fight was never your goal.
Are you so sure it's yours?
Dathomir will always be my home, but it does not need to define me.
It's good to acknowledge your fear, but don't let it determine your path.
We all know it's a rigged game, but we choose how to play.
They'll know the Jedi never stop fighting for them. Next time you want to pick a fight, you go through us.
You might not be wearing the proper attire, but now I am certain you are a Jedi.
You can't change the past. Trust me on that one.
Yes, but the experiences we carry always have a use, Sojourner.
If you ever stray from your path,
I feel so much hatred towards Bode.
Seer won her battle with the dark side. You will too. We will guide you back.
We will help each other grow.
It's in the past, but Cal, you have to make a choice to move on.
How? Failure is not the end. It is a necessary part of the path.
Keep failing. Keep getting back up. That is the only way to succeed.
Hope will always survive in those who continue to fight.
Our mistakes are in the past, and it's all of our responsibility, and it's about what we do next that's important.
Choose your direction and act with certainty. And trust that, whatever the odds, you'll pull through.
I can't save Cordova or Seer. I can't stop Bode from falling to the dark side, and I can't even seem to stop this loop of guilt and pain. But I won't betray Seer's legacy and everyone's sacrifice by giving into the darkness myself. Even if this loop never ends, I will live and fight as the Jedi Seer saw me as, even if I'm not the same Jedi I was at the start of all of this. I wish I could say I heroically best Bode in one go, but it would take 9 losses before I triumph, simply because, as you can probably guess by now, I'm not cautious of Bode's Force Slam and try to speed it up with close quarters combat. Definitely not the way to go with such a slow stance like Crossguard, but the shockwave attack combined with the deflection blast makes ranged combat surprisingly powerful against Bode. As Bode falls to my shot and my blaster falls to the ground, I feel myself leaving this space once again. But I'm shocked to find myself not on Coruscant, but with Bode's body, staring at the lightsaber he and Dagan used, back with my own single saber. In all my anger, guilt, and sorrow over what happened, my need to fix it all, that when I held this saber that had caused me so much pain, it combined with my emotions and memories, and the Force echoes trapped me in a nightmare loop of my own making. Best I can tell anyway. I still feel angry, guilty, fearful, and sorrowful over all that's happened. I'm not sure that's ever gonna change. But it's not all I feel. I'm more than my darkness. I'm Seer's legacy. I'm Cordova's legacy. I'm BD-1's best friend, and I'm one of the last Jedi, and I will make that last. Maybe Bode is right, and the Empire will find us someday. But I will give all that I am to protect his daughter, just as so many protected me. Whatever challenges I face going forward, I don't know if I am ready. But I do know I will keep getting back up and protecting all those who need it to my very last breath. Even if I don't fully see the path, I will guide them forward. And in that darkness, I know I am not alone, and I never will be. Huzzah! After 17 hours, 5 minutes, 164 deaths with a single stance, 18 hours, 12 minutes, 209 deaths with a double stance, 16 hours, 20 minutes, 169 deaths with the dual wield, 11 hours, 5 minutes, 72 deaths with the blaster stance, and 12 hours, 31 minutes with 88 deaths for the crossguard stance, for a total of 75 hours, 13 minutes, and 702 deaths, with 3 or 4 failures per run due to unavoidable uses of different stances in Seer's whole area. I have beaten Jedi Survivor 5 Stance Challenge. It was clearly a very different approach to challenges, and by far my longest video yet, but I really truly hope you enjoyed this journey, and I thank you so much for coming along for the ride with me. It really means the world. A very special thank you to the patrons that made me feel like I can go the extra mile and try out videos like this one. Your support means the galaxy. Now I'm off to go forge some Force connections of my own, and I hope the same for you. May the Force and many shenanigans be with you, always.